What happens when football's biggest celebration leaves taxpayers paying the bill for years? A World Cup can fill stadiums, attract tourists, and place a country in front of a global audience. Yet the financial picture after the final whistle can look very different. In today's video, we explore top 5 biggest financial disasters in FIFA World Cup history. These cases stand out because of overspending, weak returns, underused stadiums, or a huge gap between promises and reality. Some tournaments also created useful roads, rail systems, jobs, and global attention, so the story is not completely negative. Still, each example offers a powerful warning about public money, poor forecasts, and weak planning. Let's get started. 1. Brazil, 2014, the White Elephant Crisis. Brazil entered the 2014 World Cup promising modern cities, better transport, stronger tourism, and long-term growth. Instead, the tournament became closely linked with anger over public spending. The wider preparation bill was commonly estimated at around $15 billion, while stadium construction alone consumed several billion. Millions of Brazilians questioned why so much money was going into football venues while hospitals, schools, housing, and transport still needed major improvement. These concerns helped fuel some of the largest protests Brazil had seen in years. Arena da Amazônia in Manaus became one of the clearest symbols of the problem. The stadium cost roughly $300 million and was built in a city without a major club capable of filling it regularly. It hosted only 4 World Cup matches, and later use remained limited compared with its size and cost. The rebuilt main Garrincha Stadium in Brasilia created similar concerns. Its price increased sharply, and parts of its parking area were later used for municipal buses. The venue eventually returned to football and concerts, but its income still struggled to justify the level of public investment. Brazil did gain airport upgrades, road improvements, and some useful urban development. However, several venues were designed for one global event rather than normal local demand. FIFA earned strong tournament revenue, while Brazilian authorities remained responsible for construction, security, and long-term maintenance. Brazil's experience showed that a stadium only becomes valuable when a realistic business plan keeps it active after the tournament ends. 2. South Africa 2010. Tourism promises fell short. South Africa's 2010 World Cup carried huge emotional importance. It was the first tournament staged on African soil and created unforgettable scenes worldwide. The event improved transport, stadiums, airports, and the country's international image, but the financial results were weaker than early promises suggested. Studies place preparation spending near $3.9 billion, including major investments in stadiums, roads, security, communications, and public transport. Officials expected a powerful tourism boom, yet visitor numbers and spending fell below several forecasts. High flight prices, expensive accommodation, and fears about overcrowding discouraged regular travelers. Some tourists delayed or canceled trips because they expected the country to be too busy or costly. One repeated estimate suggested stadium spending equaled more than $13,000 for each additional foreign visitor attracted by the tournament. That figure does not measure every long-term benefit, but shows how expensive the tourism strategy became. Cape Town Stadium was the clearest warning. Built for roughly $600 million, it initially lacked a strong permanent tenant and required continued municipal support. Over time, its position improved. Now known as DHL Stadium, it hosts rugby, football, concerts, and other events. Even so, years of financial pressure showed how difficult it can be to make a giant venue pay for itself. South Africa gained roads, rail upgrades, visibility, and national pride. However, the tournament proved that temporary visitors cannot automatically repay years of public spending. Lasting value depends on realistic forecasts, useful infrastructure, and venues that attract regular events for decades. 3. United States 1994, the hidden economic gap. The 1994 World Cup is usually remembered as a success. It set attendance records, used mostly existing stadiums, and helped create the conditions for Major League Soccer. That makes its place on this list surprising. The main problem was not construction, but the gap between promotional promises and later research. Before the tournament, supporters promoted estimates of roughly $4 billion in gains for host cities. An influential academic study later compared host area performance with expected normal activity and concluded that the metropolitan regions experienced outcomes between $5.5 and $9.3 billion below forecasts. This number is often repeated online as a direct $9 billion cash loss. That description is misleading. It was not an audited bill sent to local governments. It was an estimate of how much weaker the host city economies performed compared with what researchers believed might have happened without the tournament. One major reason was crowding out. Football supporters replaced some regular business travelers and tourists, instead of adding completely new demand. Local residents avoided busy districts, changed shopping habits, or stayed home during match days. Some spending happened inside controlled stadium or sponsor areas, so fewer independent businesses benefited. The tournament still created football, cultural, and commercial value. However, the 1994 case exposed a weakness in mega-event forecasting. Promoters often count every fan's spending as fresh money while ignoring displaced visitors, behavior changes, and profits leaving the region. Future hosts need transparent reports that separate genuine new spending from money simply shifted elsewhere. 4. South Korea and Japan 2002. Too many stadiums. The 2002 World Cup broke new ground as the first edition staged in Asia and the first tournament jointly hosted by two countries. South Korea and Japan wanted to display modern cities, technology, and growing football ambition. That national pride created impressive venues, but it also produced a problem: too many large stadiums. Across both countries, 20 host cities prepared 20 venues, most of them newly built. A single host normally needs far fewer stadiums, but political pressure and competition encouraged both nations to create complete venue networks. Japan reportedly spent around $4.5 billion on stadiums, roads, and related work, while South Korea spent close to $2 billion. FIFA officials later acknowledged that 20 stadiums were more than the tournament required. After the World Cup, several venues faced weak demand. Domestic clubs in the K-League and J-League often could not attract crowds large enough to match capacities of 40,000 or more. Local governments remained responsible for maintenance, staffing, repairs, cleaning, security, and utility costs. Some stadiums found regular tenants, concerts, athletics, community events, or other uses, so the legacy was mixed rather than completely disastrous. Still, many venues were oversized for their normal markets and required continued public support. The biggest mistake was duplication. Co-hosting could have reduced costs through a smaller shared venue network. Instead, it encouraged each side to prove it could build at the same level. Stadiums should be designed around long-term demand, not only the few weeks when every seat appears necessary. 5. Qatar 2022, the $220 billion mirage. Qatar 2022 is often described as the most expensive World Cup in history, with a headline figure near $220 billion. That number needs context because it did not represent stadium spending alone. Much of the money formed part of a development program covering metro lines, roads, hotels, airport expansion, new districts, and Lusail City. Stadium construction itself was estimated at around $6.5 billion. Qatar used the tournament to speed up projects linked to its goal of becoming a tourism and business center. Many assets were planned for long-term use, so describing the full $220 billion figure as a direct World Cup loss would be misleading. Even so, football alone could not repay such a huge investment. Qatar is a small country, and 8 major stadiums created a risk of excess capacity after the tournament. Organizers planned to remove seats, reduce venue sizes, repurpose interior areas, and continue using the stadiums for the Asian Cup, domestic football, concerts, and other events. These steps reduced future maintenance pressure, but they also showed that full World Cup capacity was much greater than normal local demand. Qatar gained global visibility, modern infrastructure, tourism attention, and political influence. But these benefits are difficult to measure in cash. The main lesson is transparency. Governments should separate tournament costs from wider development, spending, and explain the long-term purpose of each project. Otherwise, prestige can hide the difference between useful investment and expensive image building. And there you have it. Top 5 biggest financial disasters in FIFA World Cup history. Brazil showed the danger of costly stadiums without regular demand. South Africa revealed how tourism forecasts can fall short. The United States exposed the gap between promotional estimates and local growth. South Korea and Japan built more venues than their markets needed, while Qatar linked one tournament to a wider national project. Which case created the biggest financial mistake? Share your opinion in the comments. Click the like button, share this video with another football fan, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about football, stadiums, money, and business. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.